Hey everybody, welcome to the Dad Challenge podcast. My name's Josh. Today we're talking about one of the biggest, if not the biggest creator on this platform, MrBeast, and this craziness that is going down with Ava Kris Tyson and all that kind of stuff, and kind of how it ties into this whole world that we talk about in here a lot. Now, yes, I generally do talk about the exploitation of children, and this isn't that, but it's a very, very important topic that we need to talk about because this seems to be a crazy pattern amongst a lot of big wigs on all the social media platforms, and it's quite crazy. Let's take a look at it. So yeah, this is a pretty big story. If you guys don't know anything, MrBeast, okay. If you look at his view stats on his view stats that he created, which I'm still super thankful that he created it, he has 306 million subscribers. This guy grows by, in the last 30 days, he has grown by 13 million subscribers. In 30 days. In the last 7 days, 2 million subscribers. But it looks like he lost a little bit because of what's been going on here. I mean, look at his subscribers. It's just absolutely bananas. I think he's the most subscribed YouTuber on the platform. 306 million subscribers, and he's just massive growth. Unbelievable. 55 billion views, almost 55.5 billion views. 37.8 billion of those views are the long views, which is just, I mean, this guy is rolling in money. He's made this, you take this 167 million number and you can triple that. Okay? He has literally made hundreds and hundreds of millions just on YouTube, and it has nothing to do with the other things, the chocolate bars, the I don't even know, he owns everything. He's one of the richest people, especially on YouTube, probably in the world. He's so wealthy. His content is good. All this says that he got this to this level because he's good at what he does. He's got a great team behind him. He's got production value. He's got amazing ideas. He leverages kind of reality television style things, puts it on YouTube. He doesn't need the big network channels like TLC and all those things to make hundreds of millions of dollars. He's doing it on YouTube. He's doing it on all the platforms, and he's pulling in more money than he would ever make if he was signed to a big deal, even though he just did recently sign to a big deal with Amazon Prime. So that's kind of him in a nutshell. His name is Jimmy, and he's been around for years and years and years. I don't know if this shows you how long he's been around. But again, he's the biggest creator on this platform. Everybody wants a piece of MrBeast. And apparently he's been really loyal to his friends for a very long time. And the guys that are behind him, and I don't know tons about it. I can tell you I've watched maybe 3 MrBeast videos. But as soon as you start watching them, you can't stop. They're really, really addictive. And it means he's got a good team behind him. He brought those guys up, a lot of them, with him, including Ava Kris Tyson, who was one of his friends from high school. Now, this is where this gets crazy. Ava Kris Tyson used to be Kris Tyson, who was a dude, and he was married and had a kid. Recently came out as transgender, named herself Ava, is now a her, and divorced her wife. So Ava, I'm just gonna say Ava. Ava left Ava's wife, and apparently is still really involved in the child, which is named Tucker. But a lot of people are really worried about that whole situation. It's kind of giving, the thing that scares me the most about this transgender revolution, or whatever you want to call it, or woke mind virus, or this transgender craze, is that the people who are raising children who are transgender themselves are raising kids to be transgender. And the thing is that if it's naturally occurring in nature, as a lot of people will say it is, then the odds of a person who's transgender having a kid who's transgender are like 1 in a trillion, like one in millions and millions and millions and millions. It's just insane. Okay, the odds are insane. So you get someone like Jonathan Ciccone-Jolie over here, which I will be talking about soon. He's transgender. He's admitted in his book, and all of a sudden his daughter's transgender. Right, you know, the odds are insane. So when Ava posts something like it is wearing high heels and says Tucker chose to slay today, people start to get worried, and it all starts falling apart into this crazy allegation wormhole. It's nuts, and I'm only going to be touching on it today. I got a few notes here just because this goes way more deep because I'm a reaction channel. I'm a blind reactor. I don't know a ton about this person. Everybody though who's on this platform knows who Mr. Beast is. He is the creator of all creators. And in my opinion, okay, I'm gonna say it right now, is uncancelable. It is impossible to cancel Mr. Beast for anything. And we're gonna talk to a little bit near the end about his responsibility, if he bears any at all. And I'm going to probably form an opinion as I create this video. Just like Elon Musk, right? Mr. Beast is, like, again, too big to fail. If you think about YouTube and you say, who's the biggest creator on YouTube? Who's the biggest person? You're just going to be Mr. Beast every time almost. Unless you know who T-Series is, unless you know a couple of the big ones. But Mr. Beast is the definitive YouTube guy, okay? Same with X. You got Elon Musk is the definitive, obviously because he owns it, but he's also the definitive voice on X. So Mr. Beast is the Elon Musk of YouTube. Does that make sense? Anyway, I just think that he makes YouTube, if he makes hundreds of millions of dollars, that means that YouTube is making hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more. Okay, so YouTube is in YouTube's best interest for anybody to do videos like I'm doing right now to completely lock it down. And this is the scariest part about social media, is that when you are protected by the uppers because of the money that you make, there really is no free speech on any platform, including X to some degree, okay? I say that, I mean, X is the best one, but there are still people being shadow banned and locked down for algorithms. If you're saying something that goes against the mainstream narrative or one of the biggest creators that makes them the most money, the video will get less views. This video, by all chances, will probably be shadow banned to some degree because I'm mentioning Mr. Beast. But again, I'm going to say this out loud. I am not holding Mr. Beast accountable for what Ava Kris Tyson did. Okay, now there are some ties and there are some things being released about all that stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. Today we're just going to talk about this one specific thing and how it relates to who's watching YouTube and why are you letting your kids have unfettered access to this stuff. That's the real danger here, okay? Mr. Beast is probably arguably the most influential creator when it comes to children and teenagers who watch YouTube and any social media whatsoever. You ask any child between the ages of like 6 and 12, if they know who Mr. Beast is, they know who Mr. Beast is. Okay? His content is child friendly for the most part, right? There's not a lot of people swearing. They probably blank it all out. It's just basic fun videos. Guy stays at a grocery store for like, hey, if you stay in this grocery store for like 100 days, I'll give you $500,000. And it's like, it's documenting this guy's process. The videos are very good. Okay? The team that surrounds him is also really good. These guys are generally pretty cool dudes for the most part, right? And so Mr. Beast has created this image of himself that is like he's very likable. Almost nobody dislikes him. He's very likable. He's lovable. He's very entertaining. He's very generous. He's done amazing things with his wealth. And that's something I want to focus on today too. It cannot be overlooked that Mr. Beast has taken his wealth and done things like given people their vision back, created wells where there wasn't before in Africa, and has done amazing things with his cash. Okay? He has put his money where his mouth is every time. And I've got to say this, I am a fan of Mr. Beast. Okay? I think what he does is incredible. His content is amazing. I'm not looking for a collaboration or anything. Nothing like that. I just think that what he does with his money, if I had that kind of money, I'd do the same kind of thing. And it is amazing what he does with it. And so he's got a brand to protect, and it's something very important to him. And right now, the shit is absolutely hitting the fan when it comes to Mr. Beast. This is a tweet that I found, and it says, it's by Mr. Obvious, and apparently this is a Mr. Beast leak, and you gotta take it with a grain of salt. This is alleged. Perhaps we judged you too harshly, and it says this. This is April 2023. This is when Ava came out as transgender. It says, hey, please listen to me very carefully. This sounds like it's a group chat type of thing. We have to support Chris, like it is critical to the business. So, Chris is his friend, okay, is Mr. Beast's friend. But what Mr. Beast is alluding to here is, unfortunately, for take it or leave it, bad or good, Mr. Beast has been loyal to Ava Kris Tyson. And because they've been up and coming. But could you imagine the things that Ava Kris Tyson knows about Mr. Beast and everything behind the scenes, right? He's got a brand to protect. He's got a business to protect. Like it or love it, that's the reality here. And he is the biggest thing right now on social media. So we have to support Chris like it is critical to the business. Not that it's critical to Chris. So, yeah, creators have been canceled for less, right? So it sounds like right here, if this is a true thing, and it might not be, it sounds like they don't want to not be supportive, because to be publicly not in support of what they know would cancel them. It's not that it's fake or wrong or whatever, they don't like what's going on, it's perverted or whatever they think. It's like, we publicly have to support no matter what, because we can be canceled if we don't. That's what he's worried about here. That's to be clear. Someone says, I mean, I'll do my best. And then TBH, is just weird when he comes in wearing a dress and acting like a completely different person. Right? And we're going to find out, like, the things that are unraveled about Ava Kris Tyson is pretty crazy. And again, I got to be careful not to point everybody in the direction. And I got to be careful not to, like, label everybody who does this as this. But it's in the conversation, right? That people who enter into this type of world to become transgender are autogynephilic, or whatever the term is, where they're, like, addicted to being in women's clothing, and, like, it's a kink. It's like they can't help it. It's not about just like your gender identity. It's about a sexual kink. Okay, and that's in this conversation, because we're going to unravel it here in a minute. I know there's an adjustment period, but we need to be completely supportive, even if it is awkward. We need to keep up our views, our conversions. This is a business. You're not alone in your feelings. Hear that again, and this is true. You're not alone in your feelings. I'm working it out with her, but just keep the status quo for now. So he's basically admitting, I'm not down for this. What does Mr. Beast know that nobody else knows? What does this team know that no one else knows? Here's just a quick story from Essentially Sports. Who are the people behind Mr. Beast? The charm of Jimmy's videos lies in the hilarious banter between Jimmy and his friends Carl, Chris, and Chandler. On many occasions, YouTubers talked about his friends and how they met. Christopher Steven Kris Tyson, is the very first subscriber to Mr. Beast. He and Jimmy have been friends for 15 years, and Chris has been Jimmy's side since the beginning, and their friendship is seemingly strong. Standing behind Chris, their bond strengthened the controversy surrounding Chris's HRT process. He was his first subscriber. But if you think about that for a second, you're not alone in your feelings. Mr. Beast, Jimmy right here is saying that out loud. And, I mean, he's human. This is somebody he's known for 15 plus years. All of a sudden, something has changed. What's changed, in my opinion? This is probably an unpopular opinion or a popular opinion, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. But people who come into tons of money, like more money than they'll ever know how to spend, they usually want the thing that they can't have, right? They can have anything, and then they do get everything, and then that's not enough. The dopamine hit is no longer sufficient, and so they search for things that they can't have that they want, right? Their tastes change because they can have everything. Have dropped their family completely. That's what the internet says. Apparently is still very involved, but like went the other route. And why? In my opinion, it's because Ava Kris Tyson wanted what he couldn't have and tried to get it. And so that's where this came down. So if you just type in Ava Kris Tyson on Twitter, you'll see things like this. The trans community seeing Ava Kris Tyson completely destroy their reputation and set them back decades. Now, I'm telling you, the trans community doesn't have that good of a reputation, especially when it comes to what's been happening a lot recently, especially when it comes to people like Jonathan Sakona-Jolie and these people who are, in my opinion, putting kids in danger. Okay, as an adult, and I'm sorry if I misgender Ava Kris Tyson, I'm trying my best not to misgender her, because she does go by she, her pronouns, and I'm trying my best, and sometimes I'll slip. I'm not meaning to do it on purpose, but the people that bring children into this type of world, to me, I'm sorry. Leave kids out of it. Okay, if there's a natural transition when you get to be an adult and you're that's fine, it's something different. And I know that's going to lose me subscribers. People are going to hate me for saying that, but I've made that stance clear since day one. This is an ideology that should be away from children. And I'll bring up Abigail Shrier's book again, Irreversible Damage. And if you haven't read it, and I know a lot of people don't even want to read it because I don't even want to be like, well, I don't want it in my brain. I don't want to see that there's another thing to be talked about here. Go read this book. Okay, it's one of the most important books in this conversation, and she's very fair, in my opinion, about it. And I'm telling you, just by saying that right here, that I read this book, people are going to be like, he's a transphobe Nazi. That's what they will say about me, okay? But here's my official stance on this whole transgender issue, and it's been my official stance since day one. If you're an adult and you are, not a pervert, and you're just a person who wants to be what they want to be, and you're consenting and whatever, I will do my best to treat you with respect, use the pronouns that you asked me to use, and everything else, because I just think, hey, that's you doing you, and I'll try my best. I don't hate you for what you've done. I think that there obviously is underlying things if you want my opinion on it, but at the same time, I will try to treat you with respect, okay? But if you include children into this thing, you've lost me. As soon as you start pushing this on children, that's where you lose me, okay? I don't think that you should be pushing this ideology on children. And I think that young kids and stuff who are, and even teenagers who happen to stumble upon this and become into that world, into this ideology, if you actually just took the internet, TikTok, and social media away, I think everything would kind of balance out. And I also take the approach from Irreversible Damage of the wait and watch or wait and see approach. Now, if one of my children came to me and said that, I now identify as this and I'm thinking about this and that, I will love my child, but I will always do the wait and see approach. Okay? Or wait and watch or whatever it's called, because I think mostly, and I'm talking high 99th percentile of this, are going to it's just a phase. Very, very important book. I think you need to read it. You got to read it if you are wondering about this thing. And I'm not opposed to reading another book that is for children and trying to understand it all. I'm not opposed to understanding it all. So that's my official stance on this whole thing, because that's a really important part of this. And as you can see from Mr. Beast's conversation here, it's a business killer. It really is it's a distraction. They obviously don't, honestly, if this is true, they don't believe it. Okay? In my opinion, a lot of trans people confuse having autogynephilia with being trans. And autogynephilia is defined as a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female. It is the paraphilia that is theorized to underlie the transvestism in some forms of male to female transsexual. This is something relatively old too. It's not something really new that's come out. But a lot of these guys just want to dress in women's clothing and it gets them off. And it's like they're sexually aroused by it, and their whole being is driven by the sexual arousal. It's the dopamine hit that you get from it, which is the same as rich people, and it's the same reason why people like Epstein exist. Okay, you can't have children; it is illegal, and so they will find ways to get it because they can't have it because everything else is exhausted for them. You have as many women as you want, and all this and all that, and all the men and whatever. But there's a point in someone's life where it's just not enough anymore. It's just the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. I don't know what that's technically called, but that's kind of what's happening here when it comes to Ava Kris Tyson. Okay, so let's get to the thing. Yeah, this one's actually odd. It's Kris Tyson from Mr. Beast left his wife and child to pretend to be a woman and talk to minors. That's where we're getting to it. Chandler Hollow from Mr. Beast has converted to Christianity and follows the Bible. Which way, Western man? Now, it says something that Mr. Beast actually has all walks of life and all friends and says stay loyal to his friends throughout this whole process. Drama Alert has been top of this stuff and there's been like major leaks. I want to watch this video. So you're just going to have to watch this video with me and I'm going to stop and comment with you because it's one of the most important videos of this whole thing. It's a video by Adrox and Adrox has 13,000 subscribers, but this video has 1.2 million views. This is really, really important, okay?
Before starting this video, I want everyone to understand two things. First of all is drawings.
What are lolly drawings? And I thought lolly was a candy, a gummy worm. Nope.
Japanese manga that is
sexually explicit and involves underage cartoon characters.
Explicit and involves cartoon characters. It's focused on characters and plots depicting underage girls. Now, I think it's clear enough for anyone to understand what it means if a real person draws or likes drawings. The second thing is...
So what he's alluding to here is that if you like lolly drawings, you're basically into CSAM or CP. Okay? Even though it's drawings, it's a legal way of getting something that you want to make you aroused. And Ava Kris Tyson has mentioned that, and I'll skip right to the end here. Nothing gets my knob cranking like some lolly. Okay, now I'm not going to show this whole video, but basically lolly is, again, very inappropriate drawings, and it includes someone named Keemstar, who his daughter was used in the stuff, and Chris was really, really attached to lolly. He really likes lolly. Okay, and for some reason, and this is really weird to me, that the transgender community and in this community that has emerged is really into manga, is really into Chinese drawings, into Japanese animation porn. I talked to Leslie about this, and it was something that was cut out. Dr. Leslie about was it cut out? I talked to Dr. Leslie Dobson. If you go back in my interview, I think I left it in there where she talks about a lot of these pedos in prison. They like this. It's like it's almost like this marker that shows you that they like children. Now, not everybody who ingests manga and Japanese animation is that at all, but it's a very high percentage of this small community of people who are trans who like this stuff. but the majority of them do. Does that make any sense? So like the small percentage is the majority, you know, if there's a 1% transgender population, 90% of them in there like manga and like Japanese animation porn. There's something weird there, right? It's I don't know how to express that, but that's what Kris is into.
Yeah, this wasn't the first time Shadman has done something like this.
So we're connecting this creator Adrox is connecting Kris to this person called Shadman who makes these images, okay, and just like unapologetically doesn't care.
Lieutenant Corbis is also one of them. But aside from all that, a new question arises: how are Ava and Shadman linked? Well, the answer to this is another drawing by Shadman. It depicts a young girl wearing a "Please be patient, I have autism" cap, pointing a gun at her mouth. She has a fidget spinner as an earring and a spade tattoo on her thigh that says BBC, which we all know what it means. On November 18th, 2017, Ava responded to a tweet from Grande and MrBeast stating, "This is coming from a guy who owns a Shad-based drawing and has it as a centerpiece in his living room."
There, that's the connection. He has bought a Shad-based drawing of this image, and there's proof of it, and owns it, and like is into lolly. Ava Kris had a family and was like seemingly normal, but all this underlying stuff starts bubbling up once the fame and money hits, right? Once the fame and money hits, that's your first dopamine hit. The power comes with it, dopamine hits, the travel, the expenditure, doing whatever you want, and then it's just not enough anymore. That's what I'm saying, it's just not enough anymore for these people.
Just some time later, they also posted the exact same drawing laid on the floor with the caption, "Bonus fidget spinners to throw some extra autism." Initially,
this is the stuff that's crazy to me. How does this stuff just get thrown under the rug when MrBeast is actually a channel for everybody, but mostly kids?
it seems Kris was being sarcastic because this tweet came after Shadman had drawn all those disgusting images. However, something messy was going on behind the scenes. In this MrBeast video, you'll notice a very familiar
Boom, there it is.
thing at the 9 minutes and 30-second timestamp. From what I believe, keeping illegal art in the bedroom isn't normal at all.
It's not illegal art, by the way. I don't know why he says that, but it's legal, and that's the thing. These guys, and you go back to my interview with Dr. Leslie Dobbs, and this is really, really, really important because it's like it starts as getting lolly drawings, and that's not enough anymore. Then it starts, okay, now I need to start talking to minors. And that's where we're at right now when it comes to Kris.
The shocking thing is that MrBeast and Kris were roommates during that time. Yet this is nothing in comparison to the next incidents. On April 16th, 2018, Ava replied under a deleted Shadman post saying, "No Beast Boy trap, Shad? You've changed."
Anyway, so basically, what this guy is saying is a great video. Go watch it. Is that he's basically tying Ava Kris with Shadman, which is really inappropriate. Oftentimes, young kids in this art depiction, and it's gross. I don't care. It's one step. As soon as you see someone ingesting this type of content, just know that it's like probably the second step in a series of steps that lead them to actually full on doing what they want to do. Okay, and again, go look at my interview with Dr. Leslie Dobson. Ava Kris Tyson is like, boom, right there, that type of person. I'm actually going to text her and tell her to do a video on this. And so we're in a step of escalation. And this is 5 years ago, and then it comes up during the same time that he was doing other things like messaging minors. Since the internet is exposing MrBeast and the trans member Ava Kris Tyson, here's more weird stuff about him. One of the MrBeast ex-Discord mods told us they used to add minor girls to the Discord to flirt with Jimmy and knew about this. Kris posted a TikTok of his son bathing naked and taking a poop and it got taken out, and he tweeted about it. MrBeast sitting next to child P artwork purchased by Kris Tyson. So Jimmy knew about all these weird things happening with his crew, but decided to stay silent till it got exposed. And guys, you have to understand, it goes back to this messaging. He has a business and a brand to protect. But does that make it okay? No. No, it doesn't. But that is going to be his reasoning. That he's like, how did he know that Ava Kris Tyson was going to become this? He doesn't. And he has no choice but to continue on and support because he's got a business to protect. It's not good enough though, because if MrBeast allowed Ava Kris Tyson to continue on with all these weird things in his brain and then kept escalating it and he knew about it, that's really, really dangerous, because this Ava Kris Tyson has a ton of power over a lot of fans, which is what we're going to see in a second here. Here it is. You don't want, so these are the text messages that were released allegedly of the conversation between Ava Kris Tyson and a minor. Okay? You don't want anything expensive for your birthday? I could spoil you. I don't know. It's fine. Look at my snap. I could give you anything. How's the video turning out? Free money. I opened a free bank. I barely got screen time. I wish you could see more. I wish I was in a video. Me too. It's too soon though. I could introduce you to everyone when you get a little older. Yeah, that would be awesome. Your birthday's coming up, isn't it? Yeah, December 2. You're turning 14. This kid's 13 at the time. I don't know where the party will be at. My mom is still deciding. This kid's talking about whether or not they're going to Chuck E. Cheese, and they got an adult talking to them who is a super powerful creator who has a lot of clout. There's a dynamic here that needs to be considered. Obviously, that's what's going on. What do you want? I could give you anything. If someone was talking to my 13-year-old child, a famous dude, you better believe I'm coming for you. Okay? There is no reason for an adult male to be talking to a 13-year-old child. That is no relation to you. Sometimes people will reach out to me on Instagram. Some of them are like still in college. And even that to me is like, you're too young to watch my stuff. In my opinion. Like 18 and over. Okay? But there are a few people who watch this channel who are young. And I wish they wouldn't. I honestly do. But it's crazy. So anyway, we could play Fortnite. I beat you last time. You don't want anything expensive for your birthday. It's starting to... This grooming, guys. I don't know how else to say it. It's grooming. I could spoil you. I don't know. It's fine. Look at my snap. Okay, I don't know what was on the snap. We've been here for a while now. I'm tired of texting you. Is the only thing keeping me awake right now. A 13-year-old. When you leave, we could play Fort or Minecraft. I love you. I love you. This adult human male who's married with a child says to a 13-year-old. I love playing Minecraft with you. Mm-hmm. You think that's what he meant? Mm-hmm. What they do is they push a boundary, right? They say something and they're like, oh, I didn't mean to say it like that. That's what they're doing, is they're pushing the edges. This is what I talk about with Dr. Leslie Dobson. They push the edges until they get to the next step, and the next step, it's just, they can't help themselves. So there it is. Those are the messages people were upset about. And then here, this needs to be said too. The 13-year-old minor at the time, who was 20 now, this is 7 years ago, now responds to Kris Tyson being exposed for having suggested text with him, meeting up with him when he was 16. Ava never did anything wrong, I just made a few edgy jokes. I was never exploited or taken advantage of. I am not a victim of anything but being claimed in these videos. But I'm sorry, you were. Unfortunately, you don't get to choose that. Because if this kid came forward, how many other kids do you think are out there? It's never one. Okay? It's never just one. Interesting. Kai Sennett speaks on the Ava Kris Tyson sending inappropriate text to minors. Weird. Yes, Chris and Mr. Beast, it's effed up and it's weird. And Kai Sennett just was on Mr. Beast, one of his biggest videos, where he got a whole bunch of like famous YouTubers to compete. So I'm glad he got to speak out about it. Then it comes down to this. This just dropped a little while ago. When did this one drop? This dropped yesterday. Okay, and this is another one. Muskina says this. Genderallennial says, I was essayed by Ava Tyson, and here's my story. For context, Ava and I are both adults and met each other as adults. Ava followed me on Twitter in November of 2022 after seeing my transition timeline on Twitter when I had under 500 followers. And here it is. You're an effing inspiration and you rock. Hey, you are too. Thanks so much. Also, you look incredible. How long you been on HRT? Since February. Thank you. And there is a community note saying this isn't a digitally altered photo. This is Android's high contrast mode. This mode will make text on blue have an outline. So people were wondering why it looks so weird. Okay, here it is. We started messaging each other every day through Twitter. She confided in me that she thought my results from HRT were amazing and that she was planning on getting HRT soon to transition herself. As someone who follows online culture, content, and streaming, I was overwhelmed by emotions with being trusted with the secret information that I knew would be huge news. As a transgender woman who publicly transitioned a month earlier, I genuinely could not believe something so amazing had happened in my life after I'd been through so much. Eventually, we talked about me potentially working for Mr. Beast, and she told me that she was sure she can get me in a video. This is what they do. Big creators will promise you things like, I can spoil you. You know, I could do these things. They want you to know that you could do anything you want. And here's the text. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there. Please let me know if you guys are ever hiring any type of work. I used to work at a floor manager and #1 comedy club. I will definitely keep you in mind. We do videos where we need people to complete. So if you don't mind sitting in a circle or something, we sure could figure something out. So I don't know how they're choosing people, but if Mr. Beast and his team are choosing people based on the relationships they want to have with those people, that's effed. Okay, that's actually crazy. She was the most famous person to ever show me that type of attention, and she immediately started love bombing me and making me feel like the most important person in her life. Within the first few weeks of us talking, she told me that she told her therapist about the positive impact I was making on her life and that she had told her friends about me. She very quickly moved our conversation to Snapchat. Why? Because Snapchat deletes things. Don't let your kids have Snapchat. While I was under the impression that she was working on getting me in a video, we started having video chats on Discord. Ava asked me to masturbate with her on video call multiple times, and I always felt like I had to say yes if I wanted to be in a video or get a job. Now, this is where I'm not standing up for Ava Kris Tyson, but this person could have just said nope and walked away at this point. They weren't forced to do anything. She wasn't forced to sit there on a call and do this. She was asked, and she complied. But she's like, well, I feel like I had to do it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And this is what we need to start teaching our children. No, you don't. I don't care the power dynamic. We need to start, because of the way the world is with influencers and stuff and people in DMs, you do not have to comply with someone because they're famous. That's silly. Okay? And saying that lessens other people's, I don't know, I'm upset with that because you could have just walked away at that point, but you didn't. But all that to say, the power dynamic does exist. And we need to have conversations with our kids about these types of power dynamics when it comes to their teachers, their bosses, people over any position of power over our kids or over adults. On one occasion, she asked me to join a video call and asked me to masturbate even though she knew I wasn't feeling well, which led me to joining her and then puking after a few minutes. That's weird. Our conversations always leaned in the direction of affectionate and sexual, and she sent me a lot of sexually explicit Snapchats, messages, photos, and videos. Our relationship was very confusing to me, and I didn't fully realize it was being coerced at the time. It sounded like you had a relationship with this person, and you just, I don't know, maybe you didn't realize it till after. That's really weird. She eventually flew me out to her home in Greenville with a one-way ticket, while I was still under the impression that she would be getting me in a video with MrBeast. The first night at her house, she told me to set up in her bedroom as I would be sleeping in there with her. I thought this was potentially the beginning of a relationship. I mean, you were already doing relationship-y things. Let's be real. When we went to bed together that night, we ended up cuddling and kissing, which led to her taking her clothes off and asking for oral S from me. I went down on her expecting to engage in sex that would be reciprocated, but when I was done, she made it clear that she did not want to return any sexual favors to me. I was hoping that would not be the case the next time we hooked up and believed we would be moving to something more mutual. Over the course of the next week, Ava engaged me sexually and ended up receiving oral pleasure several times, but she never reciprocated any sexual favors in return for what was done. I was too scared to directly ask for anything in return, and she took advantage of that. The day she first posted publicly that she was on HRT was also the first week I was there. After making her post, Jimmy called her later that night while Ava was receiving "oh" from me. She answered the phone and had that conversation with Jimmy while this person was given a BJ. Oh my gosh! I was again now given access to very private information, which made me feel special, something that happened consistently throughout our relationship. After almost a week, I was starting to feel really used and confused about everything. While I was there, I found out through a conversation between Ava, myself, and her friend that she did not have the ability to cast anyone in a MrBeast video. Uh-oh. I eventually asked Ava to buy me a ticket home and flew home the next day. Leaving Ava House was incredibly difficult process emotionally after that week. I remember trying to hold myself together while traveling so that I couldn't break down in public. So what's happening is that, again, Ava Kris Tyson promised something, Ava Kris Tyson couldn't deliver, but used it to get sexual favors from a person. That's a power dynamic that cannot be ignored. That person had every right, though, to say no every single time, but it is a power dynamic that cannot be ignored. That's something that is happening in the world of Hollywood since the dawn of Hollywood. When I got home, I spent the rest of the night crying uncontrollably without fully understanding what happened to me. Ava and I remained in contact, but she did not show me the same level of attention and affection as she did before I spent a week with her. This was the first time we went through a cycle of her love bombing me, using me, falling for someone else, treating me like I'm an annoying, jealous ex, then coming back when things didn't work out. So there are other persons in this that are just going through. Because it's not enough. Okay, it's not enough. It's one thing and it's the next. Shortly after that first week, she went on a work trip to Japan and invited someone else, but things did not turn out the way she expected. She was upset and flew back early from her trip, and she also offered me a job as her assistant and offered me to move in with her. At this point, you got to be like, no, I'm done with you. I'm done. But some people can't ignore these things that could alter the course of their lives. This is a job for one of the most famous YouTubers out there and could lead to potentially the biggest. So I kind of understand. But at the same time, man, where is this person's, get your head on? I quit my job that month and moved in with her on June 16th and began working that day. I was supposed to start with a 2-week trial. During this trial period at my employment, Ava continued to receive oral sex from me multiple times, and I started to feel like I was being coerced. Because I started feeling that way, I decided to try and avoid any physical engagement between Ava and I that could lead to more. Now that you're the employee, now things get a little bit crazier. One-sided sexual acts. I took a short trip to my home state at the end of July and returned on July 28th. When I got back, I continued to do my best to avoid anything physical between Ava and I. On July 29th, we were watching TV together alone in her living room with no warning, prior physical engagement, or a sexual conversation. She took off her pants and started touching herself in front of me. I had just moved in with Ava and left my job to come work as her assistant. In no way, shape, or form did I feel like I could say no without somehow risking my job or being asked to leave. That's where this switches. That's where this changes from like, okay, this might be a relationship to now it's a power dynamic. If you don't do what I want, you're not going to have this job. Because it was a 2-week. Remember, it's like, let's just try this out. If it doesn't work, it won't work. And if this person refuses, they're right. She's not going to keep her job. She used that against me in order to receive non-consensual OS. Well, it's hard. But again, yeah. If it's an employee-employer, yeah. That dynamic exists now. This was the moment that truly broke me for the first time. Nothing was enjoyable. I felt like it would never end and my entire body just hurt from performing the act. It took me a few days to fully accept what had happened. Unfortunately, I was dealing with all these emotions while on a work trip, traveling the country and spending most of my time with people that I had just met. The trip itself was very isolating as an employee, and there were several times where I broke down crying. I was on a 3-hour car trip to the airport with 3 people I just met, and I spent the entire drive crying, but trying to be as quiet as possible so I didn't bother anyone. Wow, that's a mood killer, I guess. I then had to wait and board an overnight flight from Boston to Los Angeles. When I boarded the plane, I decided to send Ava a message on Telegram sharing my concerns with her. I tried to do so carefully and navigate the conversation in a way that would stop me from being sexually assaulted again, but allow me to keep my job. Ava was very manipulative in her response and follow-up conversations we had in person once we got to our hotels. Anyway, you can go read this whole thread yourself. We agreed not to have sex anymore, but if that's how I felt about what happened, for several months we did not engage in explicitly sexual acts, but we did continue to engage in physically sexual acts such as cuddling, groping, hand-holding, and sleeping in the same bed. That's... what? And sexual conversations in text. For the next year, Ava towed the line with me between what was and wasn't an appropriate relationship and a power dynamic. These led to me having mixed feelings and receiving mixed signals from Ava on how she viewed me. She was able to manipulate me very easily with the power she had over me, which led to the cycle of her love bombing me, using me, falling for someone else. Kept going. So anyway, this person just keeps going. This is insanity. But this is a person who is exercising their wealth, their fame, and their power over somebody to get what they want. And again, doing that with minors and having edgy conversation with minors, never appropriate. There is never a time you could just say, I was just being an edgelord and I was just being edgy. You cannot, it does not exist. It doesn't exist. If you've ever had an inappropriate conversation with a minor, someone who's famous and has power over people and all that kind of stuff, that's it for you. You're done. And again, is gone. And this is Ava Kris Tyson's tweet. You can just put it in after Tyson, but I'd like to apologize for any of my past behavior comments that would hurt or offended anybody. It was not my intent. Seeing recent events, we've mutually decided it's best I permanently step away from all things Mr. Beast and social media to focus on my family and mental health. Some people were like, I want to add, I never groomed anyone. Well, we saw the text messages. The person who gets brought up in these accusations, Lava just has vocally supported that they are false. We can see with our eyes that we can see with our eyes. Having said that, I humbly apologize to anyone I have hurt with my unacceptable social media posts, past actions, and those who may feel betrayed by how I used to act online. To lump these two factors together, create a narrative that my behavior extended beyond bad, edgy jokes is disgusting. Nope. Once you involve children and you have been proven to be a gross, pervert who can't get off without being crazy and using power dynamics, it's over. It's not just like, oh, they were bad jokes. Nope. Can't use that anymore. You're not allowed to use that. It doesn't exist. Bad edgy jokes. Get wrecked. In the past years, I've learned that my old humor is not acceptable and I cannot change who I was, but I could continue to work on myself. And then Keem wrote, you didn't apologize to me a month ago in private when I brought up your behavior supporting the cartoon CP artist that drew my 8-year-old daughter in a sexual way. What changed? Interesting. And then Gaze Against Groomer says you belong in prison. Billboard Chris says you certainly showed that the trans movement for grown men is all about. You are porn sick, sexual deviant, and if there's any hope for you to live a fulfilling life, you need to apologize to everyone you harmed, including the hundreds of millions of children you negatively influenced, and stop living out your fetish. It's too late. He's sick. He is porn sick. These people are sick. And then someone wrote, hey, Mr. Beast, is all this transphobia still pissing you off? Because he did write in a post in support of Chris, all this transphobia is pissing me off. But now that we have that message from him, he wasn't for it either. It was all about protecting his business at all costs. So in the end, how does this affect Mr. Beast? This is a blip in his radar. Again, he's uncancelable. It's not going to happen. Is he responsible for what Kris did? No. Okay? Did he know? Unless he knew and kept him on as an influencer in the space and allowed him to have that power. Will we ever know that? I highly, highly doubt it. And I think that Ava Kris Tyson is going to stay on a payroll or be given a large amount of money to shut her mouth forever and sign a mass. I mean, anybody who works for Mr. Beast is signing a very ironclad non-disclosure agreement anyway. It's not like Ava Kris can come out and say something, because likely she did sign this massive NDA that Mr. Beast probably has 1,000 lawyers on call at all times. Okay? So it's not like someone's going to be leaking it, but it's very important that Ava Kris Tyson goes away from Mr. Beast. Just goes away. It's a blip. He's not going to be canceled for this. Unless there's undeniable proof that he knew that Kris Tyson was like this and just continued to let her have the power that she had, especially over people that came in and were likely trying to get into these shows and stuff like that. It's really, really, really weird. So does Mr. Beast hold a liability? No. I don't think so. Again, unless there's undeniable proof that he knew something more. But at this point, it's just a friend that he was supporting, probably didn't understand the depths of the sickness, or whatever you want to call it, the pervertedness of this whole thing, and just decided to ignore it. In my opinion, I honestly think that Jimmy just decided to ignore a lot of it, turn a blind eye. It's like, probably went like, hey, I don't want to know. In text messages, someone was saying something about Ava Kris. He's like, look, he probably says, I don't want to know. Don't even tell me. Plausible deniability is an important thing to have, especially when you're this big of a creator. I honestly just believe that Mr. Beast didn't want to know. Just said publicly support Ava Kris however we can, because we got a business to run. And that's the long and short of it. And I guess the other question is, should you continue to let your kids watch Mr. Beast? But do you think Mr. Beast is like who he really is on camera? No. All the creators I cover on this, none of them are like they portray themselves on camera. Okay, none of them are. They have a persona to keep up. They make a lot of money doing that, and they are like that. Mr. Beast likely has skeletons like everybody else, and is, again, I think, too big to fail anyway. He's not worried about it. But this whole thing is something he wish he could have avoided, and he hasn't. It's not over. It's just going to keep blowing up because more people are going to come forward, unless more people are being paid off. It's a crazy, crazy story, and it's one that continues to repeat itself time and time again with large creators and people who have tons of money who just have no idea what else to get with their money. They have everything they could possibly want, and then they cannot be satiated anymore unless they go for the forbidden fruit. And that's this whole conversation with Hollywood, with rich people, with people at the top. Thank God I'm not wealthy. Like I couldn't even imagine. Like it's almost super rare to find somebody who lives in the debauchery of Hollywood who has not partaken in the debauchery of Hollywood. And those who don't likely don't last in Hollywood. Does that make any sense? Anyway, that's again why people like Epstein exist. They exist to fill a niche for these people who can't be satiated. And they should never be forgiven. People like Ava Kris Tyson, if it is true what she did, should have a millstone tied around her neck and she'd be thrown to the depths of the sea. People who hurt children should be not on this earth anymore. Okay? It's not an unpopular opinion. Everybody, and unless you're like on Twitter, some people are actually standing up for people like this. And like, well, you press this, and like, it's so crazy that people care more about people who misgender Ava Kris Tyson than what Ava Kris Tyson did. Okay? It's actually crazy. But people who are children, I think we can all agree. People who exploit and hurt children should have a millstone rung around their neck. You know what a millstone is, right? It's a big, giant, heavy stone. And they should be eliminated from Earth. They should not be here anymore. Prison is not good enough for these people. Okay? They belong in hell. Children cannot protect themselves, and they are the most vulnerable of our population. And we should be doing everything to stand up for them and protect them. And for some reason, that big force field that had existed there is starting to wane. And I don't know why. It's becoming more and more like thin as the world emerges into social media and we're more connected and more tied together than ever before. It's getting crazy. And the allowance of children on social media and television shows and all these kinds of things that are being used for their real lives is a big part of this. And it shouldn't be allowed. And I think you'll agree. Everybody, take a deep breath. Yeah, it was a big topic today. Very important topic. But chime in below. What do you think? Do you think that Mr. Beast holds any liability here, has any responsibility for what's been going on? What do you think should happen to Ava Kris Tyson? Do you think there's going to be more whistleblowers? Yes. Yes, there will be. 100%. Mr. Beast is going to take a big hit from this. But do you think he's going to be canceled? No. And again, I don't think he is responsible for this. I just think that turning a blind eye kind of sucks. And I hope there isn't people that Ava Kris Tyson actually hurt. I really, really, really do hope that this is like so far been, you know, that kid was 13 when it's happening, is a victim. But, you know, thank God didn't turn into something like this other person who had to fly out and do it. I was like, let's hope that it stayed there. So thank you for watching these shows. Thank you for being here. Thank you for these conversations. Let me know what you think below, and I will see you when I see you.